In today's Leeds news, Ledesma agent open to move, Ramazani message sent, scathing review of linesman, standout starts for James, and Tanaka in tears. Morning folks, welcome back to The View for Wednesday morning the 9th of April with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all having a good morning so far. Good news from last night at the very least. Leeds back top of the table after an away win at Middlesbrough, although there's a lot of stuff to get stuck into on the back of last night's game. But points over performances, points over everything right now, and Leeds are now back top of the table and have a 2-point gap to third place Sheffield United, who lost back-to-back games at the wrong time of the season. We'll crack on with the news today. There's a bit of stuff from the fallout of last night, as well as potential rumours of players coming in the summer again. So we'll start off with that one and get it out of the way. And at the beginning of the January transfer window, Argentinian shotstopper Jeremías Ledesma was linked with a move to Leeds United. At that time, though, the move didn't materialise, but his name has popped up again recently. In recent weeks, Leeds have been linked with a whole host of goalkeepers, including Newcastle United's Nick Pope, Southampton's Aaron Ramsdale, and Chelsea, back up currently on loan at Strasbourg, goalkeeper Georgi Petrovic. And now Ledesma's name has been added to that list yet again after comments made this week by his agent. According to the Estadio Deportivo, Ledesma has a contract that runs until the summer of 2028, but it does have a £13 million buyout clause in there, and he is expected to move on this summer with interest coming from Spain and Mexico. The goalkeeper's agent recently in an interview said that he likes Leeds the most in terms of a summer move, which says that at the very least the player himself is interested in a move to Leeds United, but whether Leeds United decide a move for Ledesma is the right one next season, and that remains to be seen. He is a very strong character and will be a good strong option for Leeds as well, but whether Leeds see him in that bracket or not remains to be seen. He's had an interesting couple of years, but he is very, very much a strong personality around the place. So might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out if Leeds even do make a move for a goalkeeper in the summer, which we'd all imagine that they will. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Larry Ramazani, and there's been some fairly outlandish theories brandished around about why Daniel Farke hasn't been using Larry Ramazani a lot in recent weeks. Some even more ludicrous claims went as far as to blame race on the issue, and if you look at the players that have played for Leeds over the last 2 seasons, clearly at the very minimum seems a little bit wild. But after last night's game, Ramazani and Daniel Farke made a clearly pointed statement as they approached the Leeds fans together. Farke had criticised Ramazani's work rate in duels over recent weeks and spoke about unnegotiable minimum standards at the club that every single player has to adhere to, but also talked about how much Ramazani was loved at the club. The dual data didn't really stack up. We did cover it yesterday. Some of them, yes, but a lot of them, no. They don't actually stack up. But last night, we again saw Larry Ramazani sit out the game as a spectator as Leeds got over the line in a 1-0 win, which obviously should have been a lot more comfortable than it was in the end, but we'll cover that in a few minutes. But after the full-time whistle, Farke and Ramazani walked towards the fans together. After some stick in recent weeks from the travelling fans, the players were a little bit more cautious to approach them for the 3 cheers they do after the game. But Farke and Ramazani stepped forward together to do it for the team, after which they were seen walking off with Farke with his arm around Ramazani. So whether we agree with the manager's stance on the minimum amount of minutes that Ramazani is getting so far, I personally would like to see more of Ramazani. But either way, it doesn't really matter. It does show at the very minimum the two players, the player and the manager, are still at least on the same page. He didn't look like he was sulking at all. Didn't look like he was sulking at the weekend at all either. So all seems to be fine behind the camp. It is literally just a case of these minimum unnegotiable standards that need to be hit by Ramazani before he can be brought into contention in the starting lineup. Moving on. Last night's game was a lot tenser than it needed to be, and Leeds had 2 potentially perfect goals, both ruled out for offside, which on closer inspection seemed to both be comfortably onside, and a lot of people have had their take on this situation. Both players were shown to be in onside positions, with Tanaka having 2 players playing him onside and Bamford having timed his run perfectly for his goal. But former Leeds United manager Neil Warnock slammed the decision, labelling them as a disgrace at half-time in the coverage last night. Daniel Farke has had some pretty direct words for the EFL as well, when it emerged that the linesman that disallowed Tanaka's goal was the same linesman who had disallowed Willie Gnonto's goal and Joe Pirou's goal in recent weeks, both of those goals also showing to be onside. Speaking at half-time, Warnock said the following: "This is a definite goal. The linesman is in a great position. That's bread and butter for him. If he can't see that, Darren Williams will be going home tonight telling his mates, I've done them a good job. That's a disgrace." Stuart Dallas called the decision ridiculous and said that no one will be held accountable for the mistakes, which is the worst part of it. Former Premier League referee Mark Clattenburg called it an unforgivable mistake from the officials, and Daniel Farke, for his part in the post-match, said that we are talking about hundreds of millions of pounds at stake here, and Leeds keep being sent this guy by the EFL. Leeds will likely get some form of an apology letter again from the EFL, which means nothing ultimately. Leeds did get the scoreline that they needed to get over the line last night, but it could have been a hell of a lot easier. Michael Carrick saying that he believed that Middlesbrough should get something from that game last night, and that Leeds got all that, everything went in Leeds' favour except for 2 goals, Michael, that were clearly onside, that were ruled out. I don't want VAR at all, hate it, but the more we see officials make mistakes like this, the more that conversation is going to continue to happen about technology. Let's move on and talk about Daniel James from last night, and he picked up the Sky Sports Man of the Match award last night, and he scored his 12th goal of the season, bringing his total GNA for the year to 21 in 30 starts. They're not the only impressive numbers that James has cocked up on the back of last night's performance. With a total of 29 goals and 21 assists for Leeds, James has now registered 50 goal contributions as a Leeds player, and that one comes from LUFC data on X. James also becomes the first Welshman in the club's history to score home and away against Middlesbrough, and that comes from Andrew Stats Dalton. And James, under Daniel Farke, becomes the third player to score 25 goals for a manager that he shares the same first name with. The only bad thing to come out of last night's game is the possibility that Dan James could be missing for the Preston North End game this weekend with a bit of a hamstring strain. Leeds will assess that. He's got the extra day, I suppose, with us kicking off on a Tuesday. And we'll see if he can get across to the weekend okay. He's in good form in the last 2 games as well, and is an important player for Leeds. We may see large Ramazani pop in there as a result, but we'll have to keep an eye on that one as well, but likely Willie Gnonto. Let's move on. Let's talk about Tanaka, and Tanaka looked inconsolable in recent weeks, especially on the back of the Luton result, as Leeds had their post-international break hangover. And again last night at the full-time whistle, Tanaka fell to the ground, overcome by emotion, and Daniel Farke has given a bit of an update and expanded on what the situation is without Tanaka. This is a bit of a lengthy statement, but this is what Farke said. "Not just for him, but for all my players. They are young individuals and we're working for the most emotional club in the UK, so it's difficult. The last week the outside world is always nervous and panicking. Au is there with his first season in English football, and this is the first time in his career there has been a little bit of criticism on him. For a young player like this, Au is there. We have a tragedy from 25 years ago. The players were all moved. Even Au was moved when he heard about Chris and Kev. During the week we changed our whole schedule. We went to the memorial and the players were all moved. Then you go to Luton and have to play on a pitch that normally just sheep should be allowed to eat on. The day before you experience Mateo Joseph out with illness and Joe Rothwell out for several weeks. Then Pascal Struijk picks up an injury in the game, and you go back and you find a way to equalise, and Manor sadly misses a golden chance, and we're all disappointed. Au thinks all Leeds aren't we, but he got a bit of stick. I don't blame them. We have the best supporters in the country and they don't mean it personally. I'm not sure I like being repeatedly called the most emotional fan base in the UK. I'm not sure how I want to take that. I'm really not. But he went on to talk about the fact that it's probably just a case of everything catching up on Tanaka. Farke said that when he went to Tanaka after the game and asked him what was wrong, Tanaka said that he was so empty and tired, and that's an understandable reaction given everything that's gone on this season, the amount of football that Tanaka has played. Tanaka has played 2,897 minutes for Leeds this season, starting 32 of the 38 games he's played for Leeds. Tanaka last season in the Bundesliga played 2,257 minutes. So already this season he's played 600 more club minutes than he did in the entire season last year, and still has 6 more games to go. And on top of that, you add in all the travel and matches he's played for Japan this year, and it is absolutely understandable that the pressure that's on Leeds and the players to get promoted out of this division this year, and what could happen if they don't, plus all of that game time and travel that's been in there, it's a tough year, and it appears that it's just becoming a little bit too much emotionally for some players. But he has been outstanding for Leeds United this season. Now, Tanaka, he's been one of the bargains of the season and been one of the joys that Leeds have had to watch this season. So if anyone has anywhere to put their head, he doesn't have to put it in the ground. He can hold it high. He's had a really, really good season for Leeds and deserves a lot of credit for the club. So that'll be it for me today, folks. Back tomorrow morning with the news, and tomorrow night with a match day preview for Preston North End. We'll get some updates on the injuries, and I'll talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.